Our guest is Rabbi Yechiel Eckstein. I met him years ago in Chicago during the days of the Nazis marching in Skokie, Illinois, a village which is really burdened with all sorts of ramifications, which today I'm not sure mean much, but it's nice to have you here and talk about.
Good to be with you, Phil.
Talk about Jews and Christians.
Yeah.
What a combination.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that after 2,000 years of enmity, of fratricide, of persecution, that our greatest enemy would become our best friends. But I think most Jewish people realize today that Bible-believing true Christians are our best friends. In fact, I would say they're almost our only friends in the world today. And I've been working on that for 40 years, 38 years since I started the first evangelical Jewish dialogue. Now 40 years, 38 years later, we're the largest philanthropy in Israel and in different parts of the world in the former Soviet Union, and it's just amazing what has been done with people who were our worst enemies and today are our best friends.
How did it happen? It didn't just happen.
No, it didn't just happen. The book that just came out, the biography of my life called The Bridge Builder by Zev Chefetz, really describes that evolution. But I attribute it to, especially to two people, Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell, who legitimized Christian Zionism and made it into a much broader expression of Christian faith than it was before. And Prime Minister Begin on the Israel side was the first person to really get it and to recognize that these are our friends. It stems from the Bible. These are Christians who believe in the centrality of what we call the Tanakh and the New Testament, and believe in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, which is the central verse for them, where God promises Abraham, "Va'avarcha mevarcheka umkalelcha aor." I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. And there are millions of Christians today, not just in America, but all over the world, who believe that. If you talk about Latin America, we have a Spanish radio program on some 1,300 stations around the world. Just 15, 20 years ago, the entire continent of South America was Catholic. Today, there's hardly a country in South America that doesn't have a 30% minority of Pentecostals, evangelicals. So the same thing in Korea and in various parts of the world. We're seeing a growth, continued growth of the evangelical movement. And my point generally is these are potential not just friends, but strategic allies. And the Jewish community took a long time to get it. I think I remember you and me and a few others who were preaching that these are our friends, to reach out to one another. We weren't always accepted, let's put it that way, in the Jewish community. And we've proven and been vindicated that it's right. The one red line that we have is that we won't work with any group that does missionary outreach toward Jews. But other than that, we've been able to build these bridges of cooperation and tourism to Israel, which we started also some 35 years ago. Financial support, we've raised $1.3 billion in the past 18 years from Christians to help Israel and Jewish people in need. We have 1.6 million donors, Christian donors. Our average gift is $76. So we're talking about people who are giving sacrificially. It's an amazing phenomenon.
Totally amazing. A great tribute to you, too. How about rabbis? Today there seems to be a schism. You hear about it out in the Jewish world, that basically that the majority of rabbis, I'm not sure if this is true or not, are now so far away from being pro-Israel that it's irritating those who are pro-Israel, which I think is stronger now in most of American Jews, for example.
It's scary, Phil, because we've seen in the past 10 years or so a real deterioration, not just in Israel's image and standing in the world, but even in our, as older Jews, in our continuity with the next generation, the young people, and the split among rabbis and in the Jewish community as a whole. I would question that idea that the majority of rabbis are not supporting Israel in a strong way. I just think that there's a lot more critical positions against Israel's public policies or government, but I think the rabbis, for the most part, are still, let's call it simplistically pro-Israel, but with arguments against the policies.
You made Aliyah to Israel. You didn't have to. It was a free choice, I'm sure. What made you say that this is what you need?
You know, my father was born in Israel, in Jerusalem, in Palestine then. And then he, in fact, was 8 generations Yerushalmi, it's called, from Jerusalem. And in 1929, during the Arab riots, he and my grandparents came to America. And so I'm the first one to be born outside of Israel in 8 generations. And I've always, ever since I remember as a child, had this desire to go on Aliyah. I had my bar mitzvah present, was a summer trip to Israel, and then I studied in Israel at a yeshiva for 2 years after high school, before college, and I always wanted to. Unfortunately, it couldn't happen. My wife was very opposed to it. And then when I was 50, hitting 50, I said, it's either now or never. And so I went to Israel, opened up our Israel office. And now where, as I said, I wasn't expecting to do this. I went there for personal fulfillment of my dream to go and to live in Israel. I came late when I was 50. Would have loved to have my children grow up there and serve in the army, etc. But now I have a daughter. One of my daughters came with me, and she has 3.5 children. She's pregnant. And they're all Sabras born in Israel and speak Hebrew in a way that I can't. So I'm very grateful to have fulfilled my personal dream by going on Aliyah.
Probably a multitude of dreams, but what dream still remains to be in front of you? What would you like to do that you haven't yet done? I'm sure it's not playing golf, I'm just guessing.
No. Number one, more of the same. There's so much potential. You know, we have 1.6 million, actually it's probably 1.7 by now, million donors, but it's still the tip of the iceberg of really raising around the world an ally, friends, strategic allies. So I would like to see Israel and the Jewish community change their attitudes towards these Christians. It's changed a lot since I started this 38 years ago for the better, but it's still not where it should be. Jews tend to think more in terms of pragmatic, how it's helping us. And I deliberately called this the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, not the Alliance of Christians and Jews. Because what I'm trying to do is build this relationship so that last night, for example, 2 nights ago, I spoke to the leadership of the largest African American denomination of pastors. And I taught on the Shabbat. So the whole idea of Christians recovering their Jewish roots, realizing that Jesus was a Jew, that the followers were Jews, the New Testament writers were Jews, except perhaps for Luke, that their roots are in Judaism, and to deepen their spiritual ties with Israel and the Jewish people. I'd say that was probably my greatest accomplishment, to be able to help and contribute in that area. So it's expanding it forward. I don't know if the opportunity, my name was out there, suggested to become president of Israel last year when Shimon Peres' term was over. That would have been nice, but I'm not a politician and I'm not a part of any of the political bodies, and just to represent Israel. I have no desire to be prime minister, to be ambassadors, or anything like that. I never thought of that. I just do what long-term goals might be, as much as continue to help Israel and the Jewish people by building bridges of cooperation and healing and understanding with Christians around the world.
Well, thank you, Yechiel, for being in the construction business.
Thank you for being there even before I was there,
well,
Phil.
Not anywhere what you're doing. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
It's, I'm sure, a mission. It's you're a special human being. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more on JLTV. We call it America's Chosen Network. Up next, an interview with Morris Pollard, the father of Jonathan Pollard.